it's just an LLM step, and we want to combine these two together.
I'm trying to get ready and listen to.
Now, in this case, you will see that the prompt is a bit bigger. Right, so this is
listen to this podcast, no, or whatever this is.
Just generally, when you're using prompt engineering
tutorial
to create value. In this case, we are creating value because in this case, we're taking in this prospect summary and this company summary.
And anyways, they're screaming over it so I don't learn anything. There are Egyptian American Muslim women terrorists screaming inside of my head. I want them sentenced to fucking death.
You're going to see this kind of recur across the different projects we do, but basically we're helping these big boy recruits to automate their business with AI. So this takes in some context on that business, and it's going to generate a report that's going to help the sales rep say, okay, this is the company, this is what we sell, this is what we specialize in, this is the company that we're trying to sell to, this is who we're going to be talking to. How can I personalize this call? What's the strategy I can go into this with? What are some angles that I can attack this call from?
They're hurting me. They're hurting me. They're hurting me.
Tool that I use quite regularly, and my team uses it as well.
They're making my forehead swell.
So this tool does a lot of legwork for myself and my team all the time. I'm going to give it to you guys to use for free. You get to clone it into your Relevance account. Basically, what I'll usually do is I'll put on the dictation thing. You've got it on one of these keyboards. You've got this little thing. Basically, whatever on your computer allows you to speak into the computer, and it takes in your voice and transcribes it into text on the screen. I'll press that, and then I'll explain, as you can see here, what is this prompt doing and why. And I'll go, this prompt needs to do this, this, this. It's going to take in this information. It's going to do this. The reason we're doing this is this, this, this. And I'll do like big body of text in there. And then the next one, if I have them, I'll give some good examples of input and output pairs of how I want it to take in data and how I want it to spit it out. If you give it both of these and you hit run, it's going to print you out using the research-backed prompting techniques that we use at Morningside. It's all crammed in here. There's a video that I recommend all of you watch. It's going to be in the free course anywhere in school. So when you get in there and watch my prompt engineering guide, this is basically the entire information that prompt
if you can hear me, they keep making me swell.
So when you pass this information in, it applies all of that, and it gives you out a prompt that is fully research-backed and performs very well right out of the box. So that's a little bit of extra value I wanted to throw in there for you guys. This is going to be available on the screen.
Get off of me!
With the rest of the resources.
They're trying to drug me.
I put in the information here about what this particular task was. I said it's going to take in the prospect information, it's going to take in the prospect summary and the company information, and it spat out this basically first go, and I just had to insert these variables. So this prompt and everything else will be on the school resources as well. So in this case, because we are doing a bit of strategy and sort of high level thinking rather than just summarizing, and we may want to change the model here to something a bit smarter, we could go to O3 Mini, which is one of the later ones. Again, when you're watching this, it might be O6.
Get off of me!
But there's probably going to be some much better models, so just use a smart one, because it's really strategizing on how big boy recruits can position themselves for this call. So enough of me yapping about that. Let me grab some input for this and we can test it. Alright, so I've got this information here about myself, my LinkedIn profile, and my company. And so again, remember that this is for big boy recruits, a Dallas recruitment firm specialized in software industry talent. So it's going to look at my company, Morningside AI. It's going to look at me and my background and my profile on LinkedIn. Then it's going to spin, as we see here, review this, analyze this, map big boy's unique value proposition, and it's going to try and create a report that's going to allow the sales rep to sell me or close me better on there, or find some angles to sell through at least. So if we go run tool, and now you see that I'm using a lot of just basic web scraping and LLM steps. I just want to show you guys the basics. The thing is, tools can get very advanced when you have like CRMs you want to integrate into, but Relevance allows you to do all of that. It's just within the scope of the tutorial, it can be pretty difficult to be pulling information from all over here because I have to set up a database, show you guys how to do it too. So this keeps it quite confined, but it still gives you a good taste of it. So if we look at this view, all key business challenges and opportunity, Morningside AI this, Liam's profile, gives them a bit of a rundown of this, mapping big boy recruits unique value proposition.
Get off of me!
I change this to format. Here we go. Talks about mapping big boys recruits, strategic talking points. I've been following your journey of digital marketing AI, dive into opportunity. I work at big boys.
Fucking weird ass
bitch.
bitch.
A section on anticipated objections. So the idea is that the sales rep is going to have a skim of this before the call, which ties into the value that I've listed here, which I'm going to do for all of these builds, by the way, which comes down to ultimately a better prepared sales rep should close more deals, right? If they know more about the prospect and the company, and you have an angle to try to sell through, or suggestions at least, it should increase the conversion rate of the sales.
He's pushing me. They're
They're
pulling on me. They're pushing me.
Going to be heading over to our agent builder within Relevance. I'm going to save this. If you pop over the left panel here, you can go into our agents. And what we want to do is create a new agent. I'm going to call it our sales co-pilot, big boy sales co-pilot. Sorry, like I said, I gotta have fun with this stuff, or I go kind of insane. This agent is our sales co-pilot that helps reps to be better prepared for sales calls. Triggers, we don't need to do any of that. We go to core instructions. I'm going to again paste in some of the stuff that I prepped earlier. So if I paste this in here, you'll see that it's structured fairly similarly to the prompt that we just did before for the pre-call report generator.
Get the fuck off of me!
That I've created for AI agent prompting. So it's fairly similar stuff that I include in that other prompting tool, but the agents is slightly different to just regular LLM steps within different tools and workflow automations. So I will include this as well. It's my AI agent perfect prompt generator, and it's fairly straightforward to use. I'll include that in there as well. Basically, put in all the information about what the agent is, why it's doing it, different tools that you're connecting to it, and then
I don't know these fucking weird ass bitches.
I'm kind of hyping it up and saying how good it is. Explains the task. Talking about how it's helping to conduct detailed research on companies and prospects.
Fuck off of me.
Don't need to worry about those too much, just reiterating the task. And now here, we can enter in the references to tools. So if we go /tool, and see, in order to get the agent to function as well as possible, we need to tell it what tools it has available. This is really key across all the agents you build, especially if they're more conversational. You need to explain to them what tools they have and how and when they should use them. So if I go, you have 3 tools, research company. Yep, that's right, purpose, input company URL, use when you can gather company information. This one, of course, is the prospect. And then this last one is our So there we go. So that's all whacked in there. Don't need to worry about that too much. But again, this will be included, this prompt and everything, if you want to follow along, and also if you just want to clone the whole agent and use it in your own business or silo, whatever you want to do. You also get to select the model here. I'm just going to keep it as GPT-4o Mini. I like some pretty fast responses here because agents, as someone's using it, it can feel really irritating if it's not responding quickly. So we've got all that built out. That's the core instructions and the prompt of the agent. We can go down to the tool section.
Get the fuck away from me, stupid weird ass bitch.
We mentioned them in the prompt. And we can just go through and do some quick settings on here. I don't want to have to do an approval for it. Some tools you can say, look, that
come here, baby.
Put a thumbs up before it can actually trigger it. Prompt failed to use. Just some quick descriptions we can pop in here. I'm not sure why Relevance doesn't carry that over from the tool. I guess they're asking us to do it again for some reason. We need to research a prospect linked and URL. We're going to say this is auto run as well, and pretty cool. Change this to auto run as well. Use this when you need to generate a pre-call report from the company and prospect research. Alright, there's all sorts of other cool stuff. Relevance, as you can see, is like abilities, sub-agents, metadata, extra stuff that you can put onto, but I just want to get you guys started with the core of this. Alright, so we can confirm that. And boom, we have our agent here, ready to go. So this is where you can test your agents and use them if you want to. But in this case, I'm just going to give it a quick rundown and say, see if the functionality is working as we planned. Hi, I am getting on a call with Liam Fodsley from Morningside AI. Here are his details. Or we can just go LinkedIn. Get me a pretty cool report, please. Do prep for the call. Sending your task to Big Boy Sales Copilot. And then we get to see all the debug and how it's actually walking through these different steps. Oh, let's see what it does.
I do not know these fucking weird ass bitches, dude. Get them the fuck away from me.
That's great. It's using the research company as we wanted it to. Should add in one more step there to research the prospect as well. There we go. Using the second tool, and it's pretty satisfying when this stuff works. And this is just a really basic one. Guys, I don't want you to think this is like, oh, well, that's pretty underwhelming, Liam. I'm trying to teach you the basics so that you can actually build on top of this. So if you get the bug, if you get the like you get a travel bug, if you get the agent bug and you see the stuff and you're really interested, oh look, there it is. Now it's filling out the prospect summary as the inputs. Surely we'd have to watch it there. Do that, it's going to take a while. Having it really good, write that out word for word like that. But when you start to see this magic and you add in other cool tools and functionality, you test it on yourself, you can build like things for maybe you want to do content, you make yourself a little content co-pilot, etc. There we go, to use all the tools, and it should be spitting back, and bam, there we go. So I hope that was worth the wait. Let's go through it now.
They're pushing me.
It's a pretty cool report.
He's pushing me.
From Morningside AI. Pretty cool report. Talent acquisition under pressure. Morningside AI operates in a high
Get off of me!
tech market. As they scale, finding specialized talent, engineers, data scientists, AI with a proven record can be challenging. That's scarily accurate because that is literally one of the biggest constraints that we have had to scaling Morningside long term. Is it's just really, really hard. Even with my channel, it's so hard to find the right people and get them to commit as developers as well. So if you want to build a very big general AI development firm and AI automation agency, you need the best talent and you need to get a lot of it in so that you can scale up. So that's bloody spot on. Obviously this thing knows it's a good angle to sell through. But yeah, prospect analysis leans a dynamic entrepreneur and thought leader. With a robust background in e-commerce, digital marketing, and AI, his journey reflects passion for innovation and commitment to continuous learning. Again, that's pretty bloody spot on. Hands-on experience, so there you go. That is the Big Boy Sales Co-Pilot for Big Boy Recruits. The cool thing you can do now once you have built this is you can go share. There's a chat UI, which I'm going to turn on now. There are chat widgets, so you can put them on websites and stuff like that. What I want to do is just pull this up because this is what you'd be giving to your client.
Pulling on me.
If you guys are going to start selling these to businesses, which again we're touching on selling in the last section of this video. So how you turn these into business and start making money from it and selling these as a service and building these businesses, which is really where the money's made. So there you go. This URL you can obviously send to your client. If you're building it for your own team, you can send this to your team and say, hey,
I don't fucking know them. I don't know the money. I don't know this faggot shit.
That's how you build a co-pilot on Relevance AI. Alrighty, that is build number one out of the way, and we're jumping into
I want the women sentenced to fucking death.
At the start of the section, we are talking about an N18-based inbound lead qualification agent that's going to be doing some pretty cool stuff for us, which is a really important function within a business around lead qualification. So this is a really cool one. Again, in this case, this is what we call an automated agent, not a conversational one. What we just built is a conversational agent. Humans are directly talking to it and chatting back and forth and using it, and we are operating it ourselves. In this case, as you can see on this little flow diagram here, this is a screenshot from the final product. We are actually making this into a workflow that's going to be triggered on a form submission. We're going to do some research.
For them, these bitches might have gotten away with murder.
Agent within N18 to trigger another workflow and then send your emails off. So this capability of using AI agents in workflow automation really expands the possibilities of what you can build. And the software N8N that I'm going to teach you how to use is really at the cutting edge and leading the charge when it comes to these automated AI agent workflows. And just quickly, it's good that we've walked through the purpose and the value behind this automation so that we know why we're doing it, right? So this inbound lead qualification use case is based on the fact that companies market themselves well soon have far too many people reaching out to them, many of which are not a good fit or what you call qualified for what they sell, e.g. they're too small or they're not the right industry. Like you have a business and they say, we only help XYZ kinds of businesses. And if leads come to that business who are not qualified, and they obviously don't want to be taking calls or doing anything further with them. So this process of researching a new lead and deciding whether or not to take a call is known as qualification, which is what this agent aims to automate. So the value here is that instead of having to pay someone to manually qualify and go through all of these leads, or using arbitrary rules, which is what some businesses have to go to, it's like, oh, look, we've got so many leads, let's just say if they say that they're not on this, then we'll just cut them out. And that's potentially leaving money on the table by cutting out leads who would have actually been a good deal, but the rules kind of didn't see enough detail to be able to determine if they're a good fit or not. So this automation is essentially immediately qualifying and triggering the next steps of the sales team and allowing them to do that human-style research on these leads at scale. So enough talking, here's a little bit more information. Again, with all of these, it's going to be on the figure on the school. And I've also broken down how this agent would actually operate in the real world in sort of real time. A lead's going to be submitting the form, which is going to be this here. The Relevance Company AI Researcher, so something that we've just built in Relevance, we're going to reuse in here, which is handy that you can start to move these components around and see how they can fit into different automation platforms. And the AI agent is going to look at this information from research, and it's going to determine based on a qualification criteria we give them inside the prompt of this agent, whether they're qualified or not. If they are qualified, it's going to use this tool here and call this second workflow, then we're going to essentially analyze that further and do a notification to either our agency team or our SaaS team. And if they are not qualified, we will use this tool here, which will just send an email straight back to the person who submitted the form, say, hey, sorry, we're not open to working with businesses like yourself at the moment. Let us know if we can help you in any other way. So that's a rough rundown of the build. Let's jump into it. So to kick things off, of course, you need a platform on N8N, so you can search on n8n.io. All links and resources will, of course, be on the school post for this video. And once you're on this page, you can go to Get Started, and you can create an account for free. And just go through the setup process that they do. I'm sure you can figure that out. They do have a 14-day free trial as of this filming, so that's very good if you just jumping in, not having to pay anything. And they give you quite a lot of usage up here, as you can see, thousands of executions. So what we're going to do, of course, is click on Create Workflow up here. I will be giving you the template, so that if you want to just import it, you can. That will be on the Figma here. But just like the last tutorial, I'm actually going to be showing you the process of building these up from scratch, so you can see how you go through the process of building these automations, and the testing and back and forth you need to do in order to get to the end result. That's probably actually a lot more important if you are to go out, if I'm trying to teach you to fish, not just give you a fish, is to see how I deal with problems when we're building this. So let's get started by starting off our trigger. So we're going to go form. N8N has a nice form on the N8N form event, and here we get to create an N8N form. So we can call it work with us. Provide. So now we get to pick the field names. So we want to have the first one, which is what is. Make that a required field. We add another one. What is your company website? HTTPS. Morning. So going right. Required field. Right, so we've just booked out a basic form here with first name, company website, which we're going to need for the next step. I put a placeholder in here so they know that it needs to have HTTPS at the front of it, and I'm asking for them to provide some information about your inquiry, like, or maybe you can say, what can we help you? And that's going to be text area, so they've got a bit more room. So we can go test step here, make sure that it's all looking nice. This is what the form's going to look like. What's your name? Hobby? If you need. There we go, we've submitted that form.
Get off of me!
There we go, we have the data in. So this shows you the output. N8N works by having kind of this middle island here, which is what you set up. And then the left side is the inputs, and the right side is the outputs. So we've tested it, and these are the outputs that our form is giving, which is what we are looking for. And the next step in this lead qualification process is to do some research on the lead. So we have the company URL, and this is when we're going to go and make an HTTP request. So this is basically calling any API over the internet. And in order to set this up, we actually need to go back to relevance. And we're going to find the company researcher tool that we made with relevance. Now you're going to start to see how this all fits together. That building tools and relevance can also be very useful and an extremely useful skill in all areas of AI automation, because now I can come onto research company, and not only can I use it here, I mean, this is why I think relevance is such a great platform. You have the use here, so I can send this across to a client, I can share it with it as I showed before, I can use it just here myself, I can run it in bulk in a spreadsheet, but more importantly in this case, I can go to the API, and now I can call this, might look scary, just don't worry, I can call this functionality, basically send in a company URL and get back the research. I can access this over the internet through an API, and they give me it here, and they tell me exactly how to call it. So now this is on actually a post request, so we can copy this. Remember how we talked about get and post request? This is a post request where we're posting some data to Relevance AI. We change this method to post. We put the URL in here. We do not need authentication in this case, but you can turn it on, so you can make it private here, and then you can have an authenticator. It might sound a bit complicated, but for now, don't worry about it. We don't need to have an authentication step on this. And then if we look at the request body here, it tells us how we can send data to Relevance AI. And if we go copy here, come back, we're going to send it body. It's going to be in JSON.
They're irritating my sound.
And we can change this to using JSON. And then we can paste in basically what we've been given from Relevance AI. Now this looks a bit messy. Let's pop this open a little more. And we actually need to change it to an expression here. So fixed means that we're not accepting any dynamic data in. So when the form is submitted, we actually need to take in some data from that form, which we have over here. We need to inject it into this HTTP request through Relevance AI to get this company research done. So we can't have it as a fixed JSON body here. We need to change it to expression, and then we can pop this out here, and it gets a bit easier. So we have params, We have the company URL, and then we need to pop in here. The company URL. Pop that in there, and here on the right side we get to see what that would look like given the test data that we've just put through. So you can see I've got the company URL, HTTPS morningside.ai in quotations here, which is what we want. We can go back now, and now we can give it a test to see if it's going to be able to communicate with Relevance AI and get us the data we want. There we go, we have our result back from Relevance AI, which is the summary, as you can see when we go back to this, and back to build. This is exactly what we'd expect. And you put in the URL, does a scrape file call, writes the summary, spits out the summary, and this summary is what we're getting back out over here, which is what we want. So that's great. Another step done.
Get off of me!
Confused about what this is just the body of the request. So because we are sending a post request, remember how we get a post request? Get requests are typically just with the URL and with a bunch of stuff tacked on. A post request, we need to send a JSON body like this. And it does look quite confusing, but if I take this and go JSON paste this in and beautify it, and you can see how we have basically the project, which is the relevant project that we are calling, and this tells the API this is the project that we want to interact with, and the project expects the params, the inputs, which is the company URL, and we're injecting that company URL from our information here in N18 that we've dragged across. It might seem tricky a few times, but trust me, this stuff becomes like riding a bike once you get up and running. So a few more of these and you'll be completely fine. All right, and so now that we have our company information, the next step is going to be setting up the agent, which is really the coolest part, in my opinion, about Make right now, is that we come in here and we can click on agent, and we can set it to as a tools agent, which means we connect our own tools. And if we just back out of this, we can do cool things like set up the model. And right here, this is so cool because we get to see exactly what we were just talking about earlier in this video. We have the different parts of an agent, the different ingredients, right? So here's the chat model. This is the brain. This is the LLM that's going to be powering the whole agent. Using the super example, like this is the one meat that we get to choose, right? This is a specific model. In this case, we're going to be using OpenAI again because you already have your API key, and I can't really be bothered going and showing you a whole other provider, but it's the same process for all of them. You can, if you want Anthropic, you can then pick all the Anthropic models, but in this case, just keep it simple. Let's just go back to an OpenAI model. And if we go back again, you can see that we now have the memory and the tools that we can connect. So of course we have the tools, which we've talked about a lot in this video already. We can connect multiple different tools here, as we're going to do in a second. And then we also have memory set up here, which is a little bit outside of the scope of this video. As I said, in most platforms it comes built in, but N18 is a bit more of a developer-centric platform. So if you wanted to play around with memory, different forms of managing memory, you can do that here. In our case, we're not going to be touching it. And in order to connect a knowledge base, if we wanted to set up a knowledge base for our agent, we will connect it as a tool. So you can see here we've got in-memory vector store, Pinecone vector stores, etc. These are vector databases that we can connect, just like in the other tutorials we're going to do in this video. When you upload some documents to make a knowledge base, they're essentially being put in a vector store like these. The platforms manage it for you and make it a lot easier to do. So in this case, we're just going to be doing two different tools. Firstly, we're going to be calling an N18 workflow. So I'm just going to finish off the basic setup of this. And then we're going to add another tool on. It's going to be the Gmail tool. And then, before you know it, we have our AI agent structure built out. So we're using the OpenAI models. We're going to pick the model shortly. We're going to be using the tool to call the second N18 workflow, which is going to be triggering the email notifications for our sales reps and the classification of the lead. That's going to make a bit more sense when we actually do it. So just stick with me on this. And then this Gmail is going to be sending back a, hey, sorry, you didn't qualify for what we do. Sorry, we can't help you. Let us know if we can do anything else. Right. So to start setting things up, you can start from left to right here with the chat model, the OpenAI model that we want to use. And you need to set up your OpenAI account. So you can click create new credential. And you need to go and add in your API key here. I'd suggest you go and make a new one on platform.openai.com. And you can add a new one in here. And you can name the key N18. So you start to know which keys are used for which different platforms. And once you put that in there, you can just click save. And then it'll run a little test, and then you're ready to go. You
Get off of me!
And you get to select the model that we want to use.
Fucking weird ass bitch.
In this case, I want to go for something quite smart, so I'm going to go for 03. We have 03 mini here. This one appears to be a little bit more recent, so they'll sometimes put the dates on the end of it, and if you just look at the current date, you can see how close to the current date it is. And I'd say this one's a bit more recent, so it's going to be hopefully a bit better. And next, we're going to skip this because we need to set up a whole different workflow to connect it to. We're going to jump straight to this Gmail one. You need to set up, again, another connection. As you go through all of these different automation platforms, you do need to do these connections between your own account, say your Gmail or your calendar, or all these different apps. You need to go and create a new credential. And you can just do the sign in with Google here. Super easy to do. I'm sure you don't need my help with that. Once you've set up that connection, you can close this, and you will see the connection that you set up here. Basically, that's what we're going to be sending emails through, and then we can get into setting this up. So because this Gmail tool is going to be used to send a reply back to the person who submitted the form and say, hey, sorry, you're not a good fit for us, you want to send it back to the person who submitted the form. If you scroll down here, yep, you see that I've forgotten to add the email form in, so this is a good example of needing to go back. So we'll go back to the form submission here. Scroll down, say, what is your email? We can set it as an email, so it's going to automatically force them to provide a valid email for us. And I want to maybe shimmy this up a bit. So it's name, email, and company website. We can do another test here just to give it some proper data. No, it's not going to let us do that because this isn't set up properly, so you can just delete that for now. And we're actually going to delete that, otherwise it's going to be a bit of a pain. So we want to test it again. So we can submit another form here and go back to again. There we go, we have the information, we have the email now, that's great. And so now we can come and set up our tools again. We've got the workflow there, and we've got the Gmail. And now we have our connection set up. Yep. Oh, and we haven't got the data here because we need to run this again and get the research. So the research is done, and then for us to set up the Gmail tool here, we can go to and we've got to pull in the email. So again, they submit this form, we realize that they're not a qualified person for our offer, and then we're going to send an email back and say, hey, sorry, you're not a good fit. So we can set the subject here as thanks for your interest. I'm going to change the email type to text here, and I'm going to write a basic message in. I'm just going to snag it from the one that I've done previously. So we need to change this from fixed to an expression because we want to be pulling in their name here. So I'm going to paste in what I have here. Again, this will be included in the resources. It's just going to save us time if I don't have to type this all out manually. But you can see here, I'll just delete this so you guys know what we're doing. If I go hi, comma, or hi, and then we can add in what is your first name. Hi name. In this case, it's going to be filling in my name here as an example. So hi,
get off of me!
Blue Recruitment Services. As you specialize in recruitment for software and development agencies, we're not a good fit based on your company's industry. Please let us know if you'd like to connect us with one of your partners who specialize in dealing with your needs. Cheers, Hugh Jackman, Head of Sales, Big Blue Recruits, BBR, Dallas, Texas. So if you guys remember Hugh Jackman, comment down below for the OG fans. And then that is our Gmail all set up. And just quickly, so that you've got a bit more knowledge around how this Gmail tool works, we have all these different steps that we can use. We're using the send one, so it's sending an email. You can use reply, you can use get, delete, all these other functions, but the easiest one, and the most common one you're going to use, is going to be that send one, of course. Now we need to set up this N18 workflow, which the agent is going to call as a tool when they are a qualified prospect. So I'm going to delete this one and just save this for now. Then we're going to go back to home. We're going to create a new workflow. And this is a really cool skill that I want to teach you, the fact that you can build all these workflows and then connect them to agents. They can just be taking data around and kind of shooting it off in all directions and triggering all these complex multi-step processes, because it's a super valuable way of using agents. So I really want to teach that. And obviously this one's going to be starting off a bit different to the other one. We actually want this to be set up as when executed by another workflow. So that's going to be what the trigger is here. And we're going to be able to define using fields below. Let's just add in one here that is lead name. For now, we can just leave that there, but that's all that we need to set up. We need to go back over to the other one, just need to set this part up. Let's rename this qualified lead classifier and notify. So we can save that there. We have a bit more work to do on this other one. If we go back to this, we can rename this here. So let's call this our lead qualification agent. And so now we have our other workflow set up. We can come here, we can call another workflow with the tool, and we can call it lead is qualified. And so now is when we get to tie back into what we learned in the foundation section, because we are now writing descriptions for our tools. Remember how we had schemas? And schemas are basically written instructions or instruction manuals on how to use tools and how to use the APIs that wrap around them. This description is going to be basically those descriptions that you put in the schema, but N18 is going to be basically constructing it for us in the back end. and we just get to put in here, okay, what's the name of this tool?
Get off of me!
It's qualified. It's giving us a nice example of how we can write a description for the tool. So call this tool to get a random color. The input should be a string with a comma separated, and the colors to execute. So now, guys, we can say, oh, this tool, maybe the lead is qualified according to our correct criteria. The inputs should be lead name, lead email, company, and request and info. We're basically telling that AI model or the brain what this tool can do. So when we send it some kind of input,
It's
and it
hurting
looks over
you
our tool,
because
it
I
looks at
don't
Gmail
know
description,
why.
it looks at
Get
this
off of me!
tool description, it goes, oh well, I have a tool that does this and a tool that does this. What if they just sent me? Okay, now I think I know what I need to do from here. So this is the rough gist of what we want to do as a description. So I'm actually going to beef it up with a bit of a bigger one here. If the lead is qualified to work with big boy recruits, e.g. they are software-based business like SaaS or development agencies, then trigger this tool. It's in the lead data in the following format. It's just our data, so name, email.
Fuck off of me!
An email, message, I want a new div, qualified, true, company information, and company information, which is a summary of the relevance tool to the company research that we have. So, might seem a bit crazy at the moment, but stick with me because it will make sense in a second. We basically just told it when it's going to trigger this tool and the format to send the data in. And then for the workflow, we get to choose here, the one that we just set up, which is our qualified lead classifier and notifier, at least in my case. And then we see the workflow inputs that we've just set up. So if we go back over to our other automation, so when we open this up and define our inputs here, you can see over here, we are getting just one of them that we've put in as an example so far. So now we need to set up all these inputs correctly, and we have the name that we want, so we've got the name, and we want the email, so we can add another email. What else do we need? We need the message. Honestly, don't think we need this qualified one here. And then we have the company information.